What is a unspoken, universal rule all males know? When you become a father, all your sneezes must be loud and violent. If there is bad weather brewing outside, you must stand on the porch and say something along the lines of, "Well, the rain's coming, I can feel it." Unless you feel genuinely threatened, never purposefully hit a man in the balls. Zippers are not your friend. Use them slowly and carefully, or you will regret every decision that brought you to this place in life. If you're bald and I'm bald, we're automatically bald brothers. Not taking the last beer when you didn't pay for it. When leaving, you must smack your pockets to make sure everything is there. Some tools require testing before use. Examples include click tongs. Squeeze the trigger of a power drill a couple times. Spin the socket of a ratchet wrench to make sure it's going the right way. When she tells you she's not hungry for whatever you're ordering, order more, 'cause she'll definitely be eating your stuff. The guy in the garage with the door open is the bat signal for fellow men to come over. Roast your bro when he's happy, comfort him when he looks depressed. Always clean the sides of the toilet bowl with your ruin stream. If it sparkles when you're done, you win. Edit, was going to fix ruin to urine, but I kind like calling it my ruin stream. If a man is with his young kids, you do not get to fuck with that man. You just wait until next time or whatever you have to, but no, not today, 'cause dude is with his little ones. THX for the silver. THX for the awards all. Any object carried by another male is immediately assessed for its weapon capacity. When a friend asks for help, you help them. What is a movie that you consider to be as disturbing as it is beautiful? Empire of the Sunday. This movie wrecked me as a kid. I was about the same age as the protagonist. Went back and watched it as a father, wrecked me again. That ending is an absolute gut shot. End number X200B. Edit, this movie is also why I have never thought of Christian Bale as a child actor. This kid in his early teens was a full-blown actor. Das Boot. It does not hold back or make war look glamorous. The original let the right one in. Something about it was so eerie and creepy yet peaceful. Watership Down. Beautiful artwork. Graphic imagery. My childhood was never the same. I haven't seen it mentioned yet, so I will say City of God. A beautiful film, but really disturbing at points with how matter of fact the violence is. Perfect Blue. Once Were Warriors. I'm not sure if it's disturbing, but it's definitely confrontational. Perfume, the story of a murderer. Edit number 1, my entire life has been a lie. Edit number 2, reason for edit 1, thought the title was Perfume, Diary of a Murderer, and I have been making an idiot out of myself for 16 years. We need to talk about Kevin. You know if you've seen it. Spoilers for those who haven't, a mom has her first kid who's a little shit, and they've generally disliked each other since they first met. The mom connects much more with her daughter, who Kevin also didn't like, left cleaner unattended, which caused her to lose an eye, and threw her hamster in the garbage disposal. The dad notices the mom's dislike, and disregards her suspicions about Kevin, even talking about a divorce. 3 days before his birthday, Kevin brings a bow and arrow to school and kills several teachers and students in the gym. His mom comes to his school, and is horrified. She returns home, only to see her husband and daughter dead in the backyard. It ends with Kevin in jail 2 years later, and telling her that he doesn't know why he did what he did, even though he knew at first. It was incredibly tragic. Pan's Labyrinth. Vanilla Sky. Fargo. Incredibly violent, but very intriguingly wholesome in a way that captures everyday humanity at its best and worst. And the show is even better for all the same reasons. This Is Hard for Me. Sofia Coppola's The Virgin Suicides or Lars von Trier's Melancholia, both of which feature Kirsten Dunst. Ooh, but von Trier's Dancer in the Dark with BJRK is absolutely as gorgeous as it is devastating. My eyes might as well be faucets when I watch that one. Grave of Fireflies. Apocalypse Now. Train Spotting. Would you abort your child? It was going to be born with severe disabilities? Why or why not? Yup. I had a child with severe disabilities, and watched her suffer for months before she finally died. I would not wish that on any child. Severe? Yes. I watched my nephew suffer for 8 years. He was okay, as in content. For the first few years he loved lights and colors, and because he couldn't walk, he was obsessed with feet. he would roll on the floor, and my dad lowered his fish tank for him. It was his favorite, and we all wore funny socks and slippers, and oh my god, his laughter when my sister would wear these slippers of reindeers with bells on them. It was a musical laugh, very happy. He had a feeding tube, and loved cuddles. Sweet baby, but always a baby, even at 50 pounds, very hard on my sister. BC His dad left as soon as my nephew was diagnosed, 3 months. But as my nephew's illness progressed, so did his pain. By the end, he was in pain 24/7. He was a child, really, a baby, BC. Even though he was 8, he didn't have an 8-year-old's mental capacity, and all he knew was pain. I couldn't do that to a person if I could prevent it. My sister had no idea he was disabled when she was pregnant, BTW. I don't know what she would have done if she had known, but she didn't. All tests were normal. He died at home. He had seizure after seizure, and eventually either he stopped breathing or his heart stopped. They don't know which happened first. My sister has, obviously, never been the same. Also, my other nephew also had PTSD from seeing his brother so sick. It's so hard, on everyone. I could not do it. My wife did. The fetus tested positive for Edwards syndrome. Just given those test results, the chance of a live birth dropped to 5%. Assuming the baby was born, the median life expectancy was measured in days. Likely disabilities include kidney malformations, structural heart defects at birth, intestines protruding outside the body, esophageal atresia, intellectual disability, developmental delays, growth deficiency, feeding difficulties, breathing difficulties, and arthrogryposis. Scheming Wikipedia, apparently results have got better since we dealt with this, but still nothing like good quality of life. So she had the abortion. It was a relatively easy decision as these things go. That was her first pregnancy. The second one was healthy. Our daughter is in school at the moment. She's tiring and often annoying, but in age-appropriate ways. If my wife didn't have the abortion, we probably wouldn't have had her. We might not have been able to. The first pregnancy could have caused health problems, and we might not have wanted to, given the expense and trauma we would have gone through. When abortion bans are in the news, I often think, if that had been the law for us, our daughter wouldn't be alive. Yes, absolutely. I worked in a pediatric ICU for 4 years, and medicine has gotten too good at keeping people alive. Kids would sit for months and months connected to CRRT, dialysis, and ECMO, heart/lung machine, literally wasting away before ultimately dying. And when they die, they don't resemble anything like a kid. They look like puffy little aliens who sometimes have lost the perfusion to their hands and feet, so now they're dead and black. It's horrific, and I can't imagine putting a child through that. I also cannot imagine spending my days sitting in a hospital room watching that happen to my child. I remember hearing about a study about this exact same thing. Unsurprisingly, most parents would rather choose abortion if they knew their kid would end up with a disability. Edit, thanks for the silver and up votes. I'd like to make something known. When I mentioned disability from a study I heard a while ago, it was something more to do with severe disabilities. I used the general meaning of the word disability because I don't remember the exact study nor the disabilities stated in such study, thus the generalization. Although I still felt the need to use the word disability in case mild or medium disabilities were included in that study regardless. As far as I remember, to the best of my memory, I believe Down syndrome was included in it. My greatest fear is that my wife and I would have a child with my genetics. I have epidermolysis bullosa simplex, basically a protein deficiency that causes the layers of skin to not stick together. So my skin cracks, blisters and peels constantly. More severe cases cause the skin to peel off like taking off a glove. I don't know that I would ever want to put that on my child. To have to live with constant hospitalizations and infection. Likely to live a very short life. I was lucky. If it was determined that my child would end up with a severe case, I wouldn't want them to suffer. Edit, wow, didn't think that many people cared about a condition like this. For those saying adopt, I cannot reply to all of you, but it is always on the table when we discuss children. IVF is also on the table. Especially with some of the advances in modern medicine for early detection. Finally, for me, my case largely revolves around my hands, feet, and legs. Though I could certainly see it being a problem in more sensitive areas for others. My close friend has a severely mentally and physically disabled child. It's thankless, exhausting, doesn't leave the parents any time to just be their own persons, and you don't get to experience all the joys of parenting, like watching your child grow, learn new things, build friendships and relationships, get an education and a job they enjoy. Honestly, it sucks. It sucks for her, her husband, her other kid, and most of all for the disabled kid who is in constant pain and needs 20 medications a day to just survive, and will just be sitting in a care facility for the rest of her life once her parents pass. So yeah, no, nobody wins in this. Absolutely, I would abort. I grew up with a sister who was held back at birth. Her highest measurable IQ is 2 years 6 months at feeding herself. She is in her mid/late 60s now. No one in our very large family had a normal childhood. We all had to watch her and take care of her. She's older than me, but I still had to take care of her toilet needs and I often had to clean up floors, furniture, and laundry, plus her, when I wasn't even a teenager yet. As I was closest in age, it fell to me to be her caregiver and eventually her guardian. A large part of my life has been devoted to her. I knew very early on that I would never want to give birth to a mentally challenged kid. I lived in fear that my own child would be held back and end up oxygen deprived and be like her. I never had a clue what a real childhood should be until I got a lot older. I often think how different the lives of my siblings, parents, and myself would be, had she been born as a normal person. I could never willingly give birth to a mentally disabled person and mess the lives of my other kids and my spouse up so drastically. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister, but the sacrifices, the workload, and the mental and emotional pain, is a steep price for a kid, or a parent to pay. I grew up next to a family with a special needs daughter. I will not throw any shade at people for their decisions, whether it is to abort, to raise and love, to ask the state to care for such a child. It is complicated and personal. But me? As a witness to all that, I have spicy opinions. Over the course of 15 years I witnessed that family get absolutely wrecked. Parents never ever happy, older brother de facto caregiver, resentful because his life suffering, all plans for college and retirement fucked by absurd medical costs of caring for the special needs child. On summer days when the windows were open we could hear them all arguing and yelling at each other, always about her. On top of that was the usual stuff of her getting bullied in the neighborhood, or at school. And constant medical problems. I would characterize her life as mostly suffering and mental distress. And the entire fact that most everyone feels school is pointless for such a person and that anyone doing that kind of thing is foolish and wasting time, not my opinion. The child unceremoniously died to a respiratory infection right around the time I was entering college. Which fucked them up even more, because although it was 15 years of thankless non-stop work, now they didn't have to do 15 more years of that. They exhibited clear signs of survivor guilt. Parents eventually divorced, house got sold, older brother moved away. They all had permanent frazzly hair, frowns, drab shitty clothes. All in all, I think even the most relentless optimist would have a hard time pulling a silver lining out of that. Those people got dealt a super shitty hand from life. So my thoughts? Abortion is a mercy. Yes, and I did at 18 weeks. Pregnancy had a 1% chance of even making it to the end and the child would have had lifelong health issues. I still stand by my decision. We found out the fetus my wife was carrying had cystic fibrosis. We aborted. It was an extremely difficult decision and we were shattered for quite some time. We still feel guilt but we don't regret the decision. We've since had 2 amazing, healthy children so I'm sure that rearranges things in our minds a bit. On the flip side, the couple that bought the house we lived in at the time has a son with CF. I check in on them on social from time to time and see pictures of what life would have been like for us and the child in that same house. Seeing their beautiful son makes me feel terrible. Seeing how much his condition dominates their lives and the anxiety they have about it particularly in the COVID era makes me feel like we made the humane decision. I hope nobody reading this is ever put in that position. If you have been or are in it now, I'm very sorry. Yes, without hesitation. If a pet is constantly in pain, e.g. terminal illness, old age, etc., we euthanize them to stop the suffering. Same with humans. If I can prevent someone from having a life full of suffering, I will do so, without hesitation. Yes. If I can reduce anyone's suffering I will. And even if I let it live, I would not be in a position to take care of someone with severe disabilities anyway. This is coming from a severely disabled person, battling a life-threatening illness. Severe, life-threatening, or basically any disability that would make my child's quality of life extremely poor/non-exist. Yes, absolutely. Any other less severe version of the disability? No, they should be able to see the world if they have some quality of life to be able to do so. Not to be too morbid, but I wish my parents made the more humane decision and aborted me. I'm not even 30 and I'm already connected to tubes, portacath, for the rest of my life. Treatment isn't covered by insurance, so I have to pay out of pocket, and not even getting the full treatment I need I just cannot afford it. I don't know how much longer my body can handle. Fighting my life-threatening condition, day in and day out, and not seeing any cure in sight? I can't even begin to explain the type of burnout I have for life. Yeah, life is ass as it is. Why would I put another human through 70 odd years of it when they're incapable of living it to the fullest from the get-go?